Thank you very much. It's such a honor to be here. I count it a privilege. It's a learning opportunity for me. I am grateful for parenting resources and initiatives. When Sister Bola called out to me and said, I want you to come, I said, who am I? Praise God. I'm an OBGYN. I've been a Christian for many years. And sometimes I ask myself, why did I find myself with family restoration issues? And many times I ask God, I said, what are you doing with me? Because I don't consider myself, with my own family background, my career, and all that, to be, the specialist in this area or somebody who would have something to say or write about even. My biggest issue coming into this was God started showing me how that our cultures, would even affect the way we read the Bible. It's like a lens. It's like you're looking at something, and you put on your lenses, and all you can see. So when you want to define submission in the Bible, it's from a cultural lens. When you want to define parenting, it's also so culture is an ingrained thing that we saw in our parents. It's not our faults. It's not like we are. Thank you. It's not like we are bad people. It's just natural to have culture ingrained as we grow up. And if we read the scriptures with that, we have a problem. My favorite scripture that I talk about when it comes to this is Romans 12:2. Be not conformed to the world, yeah? Be not conformed to this. The New Living Translation says it in another way, but I'm going to just wait till my slides come on. So before I go on, let me start with two things. First of all, it's the culture issue that interprets the scripture. And then when we want to preach, we preach it passionately too, but from culture. There was a man of God many years ago that really affected my thinking. The first thing he said, if you're going to be a missionary, which means somebody who can transfer the gospel from one culture to another, you have to learn to unwrap the gospel. You have to learn to know what it is that the Bible is actually saying. How your culture presents it should not be the way the culture of that person may not be. So we call it gospel unwrapped. So even in parenting, I'm going to take an initial example of honor. The Bible says, honor your father and your mother, right? It's the first commandment with a promise. But different culture relate with that differently. Our culture, you go on the floor, means you've honored. But does that really mean honor? No. It's an expression of culture. Somebody may be on the floor prostrating and hate you with a passion. So that's not what God is saying. What God is saying is, we get the value, the background understanding passed across. That's the gospel. Then that person expresses that culture the gospel in their own culture. I'll give you, two things. So I started doing things like, okay, what does honor mean to a 10-year-old child? And what does honor mean to a 30-year-old man? They are both your children. And they're supposed to honor. But when you begin to unravel that, you will see that honor means something different. Obedience is the simplest thing that anybody can do. It just means obey. Do what you are told. When you become an adult and you are married, you cannot do what you are told. Your grandfather can't be telling you do what you are told. Then we are contradicting the gospel. Does that make sense? So that's my background. My background is, can we understand what the Bible is really saying? Then it becomes easier to pass it across from one culture, which is the older generation. I first titled this message, Ancient and Modern. And Sister Bola said, it sounds ancient and modern enough. But the reason I did that was because the team principle is what God gave me as a tool to begin to deal with my own family members. What is a team? A team is a group of people. You have one common goal. You have different roles and different strengths. If you have the same strength, you can't be a team. Does that make sense? We don't have soccer team that is full of only goalkeepers. As in, how does that work? And if I understand my team concept, that my family is my default team, I celebrate the strength of each of them. Whether my husband, myself, or my children, or grandchildren, for instance, for that matter. It's the celebration of that makes me come to say, our team is going to win today because we got the best goalkeeper on the earth. I've seen the strength of a goalkeeper in the soccer team. And I'm able to say, we will win. Not because I know how to do it, but because I got somebody in my team who can do it. And so in family life, I began to see that if we saw family life like playing soccer, for instance, like teamwork, you celebrate each other. I'm not going to be angry at my husband will say this. I will not, if my wife is the goalkeeper in the family, I celebrate the fact that she's got that strength for us, not for herself. So each strength is brought on the table in each family from that background of teamwork. I got it. Yesterday, I didn't want to do slides. I told Sabola, no slides. My youngest child. I just said, I have this thing. Oh, she said, I can do that. Da-da-da-da-da. I will struggle with this for 2 hours. I'll be like, what are they pressing? This girl will just, like she's playing keyboards. And she's done it in how many? So I say, I'm going to showcase that my baby did this, so I'm going to use this. So I'm talking about your family or default team. So we have many teams in life. Some of us play soccer or we have games. Even at work, we work in teams, right? Like in the medical profession, it's a teamwork. It's not a team of doctors. That's an aberration. If you put too many doctors in one room, they will fight. Physical, even. Because, we have the same strength. You can't put people with the same strength together and expect them to work well together. But in each team, you have a doctor, you have the mental health therapist, you have the nurses. Then people will tell you that's a one-stop shop you can go to if you have problems. Because all the people, there are the different strengths there, and they are doing teamwork. What does teamwork really mean? It means you are working together towards one goal. Amen. Praise God. Okay. This is not church. Some of us. That's my team. I'm blessed. And I tell people, we didn't set out to be like this. We married young. I remember the problems we had with my parents then, but that's me, and that's my gen. My husband is the generation before mine, and I'm X, and then I have Y, and I have Z. And my sons-in-law are there too. I'm going to show you one more picture. And these are the grandkids. I have 6. I'm blessed. Our first 2 daughters got married, and they gave us 3 each. And this is, when you talk of adaptation. When we came to Canada, they were in high school, both of them. And so they grew up in Canada. And the first question people would ask me is, how did you get them to get married? How did you even get them to get African husbands or Nigerian husbands or what? I said, I didn't get them to do anything. There are 2 words I function with when it comes to family restoration. And I will define them right now. It is grace and mercy. When you talk of mercy, okay, grace is the one we define most. We say, what is grace? People will say, unmerited favor, right? It's a simple definition. But grace means that unmerited favor, somebody had suffered for it. You didn't just get it. So whatever we're enjoying is because Jesus died. If he didn't die, where are we? Right? So somebody paid the price. I was supposed to take one of my younger relatives somewhere one day, and I took a friend as well. It was another country. We're traveling, so we've lived in 4 different countries. So that's why when you come to adaptation, you leave US today. If you go to another place, you're going to adapt to the culture of that place if you're going to raise children or help with grandchildren for that matter. So this young guy was with me. We were leaving from South Africa. I was driving to Swaziland, and I had him in the car and a friend. And just as we were driving, we had gone how many hours? He said, I forgot my passport. I'm like, oh my goodness. What was supposed to do? Okay. Passport. We're turning back. My friend said, drop him, let him take a bus back home. Then he will know next time not to do such things. And I looked at my friend. I said, what his father has done for me will not make me drop his child anywhere. I'm going to go back. That's what we call grace. Somebody has done, his father did so much. So you remember that. What Jesus has done for us is what makes us do certain things, right? So when it comes to family restoration, we enjoy what we call grace and give a lot of it too. So that you remember what somebody had done for you. Remember what your parents have done for you. You remember as you go on. Okay, then mercy. So the difference between grace and mercy is this. Grace, you get what you didn't do anything. You didn't do nothing. But you get goodness. You get something good. Mercy means you did something bad, but you were not punished for it. So in one, you don't need to do anything. In the other, it's just you didn't get the wages of sin. You understand? You didn't get to. So in family life, I've learned to do that. I've learned to adapt a lot. I didn't understand. Coming from Nigeria, my children struggled. By the time we got to Canada, and they got to high school, that was not their number 9 school in life. The first two girls. And then we said we were leaving again. They said, Mom and Dad, you leave us here and go. Go do whatever. I'm a gynecologist. When I had my third child, my first 2 girls, when Timilayan came, I can't go back to that. I leave them, I'm on call. I leave them 2 young girls with a baby. And I'm gone to work. And one day I came back, but they were crying. Baby was crying, and the 2 girls were crying. And I came back. Do you think I need a lot of mercy? Don't you think? In parenting, we find out we've left a lot of gaps. Right now, we're friends. Right now, my 2 girls will work together. Right now, the 2 of them said, things are so bad here. Mom, we're not going to work. My second daughter has a first class in accounting. She does my books now because, okay. But at her time, why? We're stay-home moms. We're going to take care of these kids. Are they my grandkids? Would I benefit later? I better put whatever I can. What does adaptation mean? You find yourself in a situation, I wish I didn't do this. I wish I gave more time. I wish when somebody was pulling my thing, I've learned to apologize to them. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were hurting. I didn't know. I knew you wanted to talk to me, but do you know I'm also a first-time person? I'm trying. I don't know. Because I came from a divorced home. I never lived with my father and my mother under the same roof. Never. They got divorced when I was maybe 6, officially. So, everybody's struggling. You know, sometimes you say, you put so much on the parents, or you put so much on the children. We're all children with God. I told my children, I said, God has no grandchildren. As you are children, I'm children. The one I can't handle, take it to God. Hey, give me a break. Apply some grace and mercy to these things. And then it becomes teamwork. A member of my team is struggling. I tell them, your mom is struggling. I'm struggling between my calls and my duties as a clinician. You know, sometimes you are wired. The way you are wired in your work, it reflects. My first daughter will be like, Mom, it's understandable. You're a doctor. You're trained to fix problems. So we can't expect you to switch from that, which you've done many years, and be a mother that just listens and is not trying to fix. So we understand, but we will not do your fix. Yeah, we may not, right? So we learn to work as a team. What am I saying? Your family, your default team. I'm learning to be a parent. My children are learning to be parents themselves. And that's why, I'm just so grateful to God. It is God that has shown mercy. And this is the way the New Living Translation puts this. Do not conform to the world. He says, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Okay, so there were many instances, even in my own parenting journey, that I'm like, okay, I've got to stop thinking this way. I've got to change this. And if I can't, I go in front of the mirror and I talk to God. I say, Lord, just help me here. I'm struggling. We used to have a meeting in my family, like seasonal. We call it the SWOT analysis that we do at work. I brought it home. I said, tell daddy and mommy their strength. I'm serious. Talk to me. Oh, you are this. Okay? That's their perception. And then one of my daughters, when we started saying, this is who you are, she said, Mommy, really? I've tried so hard all my life to please you. And I'm like, it's not about pleasing. I'm just saying, she said, Mom, it's you I'm trying to please. I had to sit her down. We wept together. I apologized and I said, please stop trying to please me. Try to please God now. You're an adult. It's God. If we don't stop those, but it was my mother that did this to me, and it was my daughter that said that. We all look to God, because in God we all meet. Amen. It's in God we meet. We don't have the same training. Some of the things that I am doing, I had to go pay for it. Communication. I had to pay. I yell. Like as in, I feel justified to yell. Because I tell people, I've been on call for 3 days running. And they yelled at me at work. When we got to surgery department, I won't forget that. I got to surgery department and they said, excuse me, there are no males, no females here. We're all residents. You come here every day at 8 a.m. If you are sick, you come. Because we're doctors, we can tell who can work or not. So you first of all present yourself here before you come and tell us you are sick. The only time you don't come here is when you are dead. And please give us a phone call. So you understand what I mean? I go through that and I get home and somebody is trying to say I should be what? Like before you finish, I'm like, go do the kind of work I do for 3 days, come back and tell me who I should be. As if I'm not a human being myself. But when we learn to be team, when I learn to apologize, when I like to say, Lord, I have gaps. There are things I should have done, which I didn't. How can we make it work now? So that's what happens. Oh, a team did not perform well. They sit down. Where did we fail? Where didn't we use the strength of the person who had the strength? Then we can all move on together. That is my story, and I don't have much of it, because together, everyone achieves more. This was one shocker. I read The Daily Bread, 2019, August 17. The Daily Bread said, rent a family is now a growing business. As in how? So they went on to say that in the, European countries, loneliness was such a big deal. It had to be, there was a minister for loneliness. And it was so bad. And why? Because the families grew up differently. And they disconnected. And healthcare cannot serve everybody the same. Look, you need family. I tell people, oh, my son did this. I've told him, once you're 18, you can go out. You need that man. You need that man. It's not about walking people out that God created family. He said he settled the solitary in families. It is to prevent loneliness. At those times when you need one another, that's how it is wired. So if we will not rent a family, we have to adapt. We have to adapt. You have to adapt the method. You have to change the methods. Like I said, the core value is the core value. The method is what we have to keep changing. It can't even stop. It can't even stop. Autopilot is not your friend. I can tell you that. I saw an article. It wasn't an article, a video on one of the social media just this last week. And they were asking an old man, why are children different? Children are raised in the same environment. Why would one turn out to be this and that to be that? The wise man looked at the person questioning him and said, you cannot have the same children under the same condition with the same parents. Why? The firstborns have a different deal. The second, the third, it depends on your own age, what you are going through at that time, how much resources you have. Everything changes. So no child is brought up exactly the same as the other child. Everything has changed. And so if we don't understand those concepts, we want to maintain the same as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. No. We've got to adapt. Our personalities are different. Our, everything is different from one child to the other. And it's God that gives grace and mercy to do some of these things. The biggest thing in teamwork is communication. A team that does not communicate will lose. You will have all the strengths, but you will be, soccer, I know soccer, many men like soccer. I follow my husband. I remember one time, they were playing those 1994 World Cup, something. We didn't have television that time. So my husband said he wanted to go and watch soccer in our neighbor's house. I said, Pastor, how can you go and watch television in neighbor's house at 2 a.m.? I think it was 2 a.m. It was something like that. So I thought I had managed him well. And then he said, go. He just simply jumped out of bed without even considering what he was wearing, ran out of the house to the neighbor's house. That's the strength of passion. The point I'm trying to say is, in a team, we're so different. I remember that after that win, there were a lot of issues, political issues, and my brother said, it's because somebody didn't pass. So that's communication. Somebody didn't pass the ball to the best striker. Why wouldn't they do that? They were fighting. I'm like, and we all lost. It's all of us that will lose. If we refuse to fix the problem of communication, and this is what I tell couples, families all the time, we all don't know how to do it. But we can all learn. I can go to school to learn what's important in life. I tell men all the time, please, you are the leader of the team. Learn communication. Go to school. Help us to save the world. Because that saves the world. Communication, I can't go into all but I need to let us know. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Because what happens, and I remember one of my brothers, I would say, what did that guy say? Somebody came to our door and was talking. What did that guy say? He said, I don't know. But he spoke to you. He said he was just opening his mouth and closing it. The biggest illusion is that it has taken place. We need to communicate with the younger generation. The younger generation needs to learn that it's important that we communicate so that they can also communicate to the next generation. And one of the when we talk of grandchildren, somebody says your culture is dead if your grandchildren don't know it. You can boast that your children know it. If they don't know it enough to pass it on, gone. So, what are we saying? We're saying we're learning to connect with the generation that's next with the belief and hope that they will connect. So if we have not done that, there's still plenty of room. One of the Yoruba proverbs that I translate, it says, the sun that is still outside is enough to dry your clothes. We can all regret what we didn't do. But believe me, there's a future ahead. If we are willing, like somebody has said here, to learn, let's put it back. Unlearn and relearn and learn and keep learning. The biggest illiterates of the 21st century is somebody who has stopped learning. We all learn. I learn from my kids every day. I watch them. I'm like, I can't do this. I celebrate them. You sit at home with your child. I can't. I said, maybe because they said, Mom, maybe the way you were wired, I was wired. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. I was trained to go and be looking after other people. That's my training. And babies don't care. Believe me, minus 41, the worst temperature in my place, baby will come that night. I will know. I heard. They just come. So they don't respect all your rules or whatever. That's what I'm trained to do. You sit, you decide not to do your career because you want to take care of your children. I celebrate you. What can I say? Will I now say, you got first class in kindergarten and then whatever I can do to support, it's grace, it's mercy, it's restoration. I'm going to close by saying, what is restoration? Restoration means getting back to the original. God had a dream about family life. The challenges that family life is facing is multifaceted. It's not only that the devil is against it or whatever, it's just breaking down. And it's only God that can fix it. And so when we acknowledge that, and then we come to trainings, you support people who have a heart for it. We know, I can't do this. I'm here to learn myself. I say, family restoration, God, send somebody else. Me? I say, why? How do I even qualify? But when God decides to do something, he puts the grace, he puts the mercy, he puts the team. And I'm so grateful for the team that has done. Sister Bola couldn't have done this alone, but believe me, if this is all she did, like, this is what God said. And then people are doing it, and this is happening. I thank God. Even just that one word is enough. All we need to do is just that one missing piece, which is yours, which is your own strength, which is what you got to give the world. We all have the challenges of families. You want to shrug your shoulder, it's coming back to you. I should stop. I can keep talking. Did I close it? Do I have more? Do you have questions?
I think you have time for questions, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So as someone who has lived in 4 countries, right, or 5?
4.
4, okay. And you've gone from, of course, with the children. What maybe 2 or 3 significant things that helped you to adapt, going from place to place, can you share some of those? Thank you.
The first thing is that I learned that family was very important. And I was brought up in a way where career was, what you went for. It's career, you do well, and that. But then the fact that family, there was a time in my career, I stopped working. Everybody said, I said, no, I'm not. So what are you going to do for food and whatever? I said, you know what? The fact that I have food is not because I'm a doctor. For a whole year, I didn't work. It came to that. So that year, I saw the children needed this or what, and I said, no, I'm not working. And that was what I did. So that was one of the things is for me to learn the importance of family life, making it work whichever way I can. That's number 1. Number 2, for me to learn to know that each of these 4 children had what they were going through. That was something else again that I had to say, okay, I cannot lump them together. They are my children. All of you grew up in the same house. What's your problem? In fact, there was one time, like, if any one of you give me a problem, I scored 75%. I've tried. So I think those are the 2 main. So for each country, I also realized that the prevailing culture among peers, whoever is even available to be their friend, the blessing was that the first 2 girls, they are friends. So it was easier for them to cope with the number 9 school. I'm like, what's your problem? Meanwhile, I didn't go to 9 schools. But I just, for whatever reason, I didn't realize that had an impact. So when the 3rd one started, I'm like, your sisters went to 9 schools also, you better chill. So again, I think it's just understanding that culture has a big impact whichever way you look at it. whether or not you was, it's just big. I don't know if that has helped you from my own experience. So my first child now, I remember one day she wanted to scold her baby, and say, yeah, Wena. Wena is a South African language. We are not South African, but it was that day I realized these girls grew up, their teenage years was in South Africa. So we traversed Nigeria, Swaziland, South Africa, and then Canada. And so each one had an imprint on each one of them that you had to acknowledge in dealing with them. So that's my own experience.
Okay. So I have the mic. So thank you very much. Now I'm beginning to feel, not that I didn't know, but I'm beginning to feel more convinced that parenting is hard work. Sincerely, I was just sharing with my sister, and my daughter is here. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell on you. My daughter used to say, because she was my first, and she says, I was the guinea pig.
Yep, and that's correct.
So I don't know how you were able to gather up these resources, or were you also like us, learning on the job? Because I learned on the job with every child. And sincerely, I didn't read a lot of books, I'll confess to you, but I had a very good walk with the Holy Spirit, I will tell you. He taught me a lot of the things that I used. One of the things that I know he told me is to treat each of my children as individual, never to treat them as children. So that helped me to know. I have 3 children, they are 3 different people. So I have time with my children individually. And I learned a lot from today. But I want to ask you, how were you able to learn on the job? And where did you get all these resources from also? Are there also some resources? I mean, that's why we're here. I've gotten a lot from Dr. Chinwe, and I'm getting from you. How can the mother and the father, unfortunately, when I came in, I sat down, my first thing, I'm sorry, I'm a data scientist, I'm a public health scientist. One of the things I do is data. First thing I did was to look at the crowd we have here. And I broke it down into male and female. And when I looked around, I saw more women than I saw the men. So now you're telling us about team, family, your default team. I'm here learning all of this. I'm going to put these things in practice, right? Now, my husband is not here. I'm going to try my best to share with him what I have learned today. But you see that this team needs to make a team. I preached somewhere on that scripture, a wise woman builds her home. A foolish one destroys it with her own hands. And I asked my audience where the wise woman is building. And there's a man who is by the side, who is not as wise, permit me, as that wise woman, and pulls it down. How would that team work? So we need this to go to the men. We need our husbands to join with us. But where that is not happening, God will help you just like he's helping me.
Amen. One of the things I learned in life is to set apart things I can do and the one that God has to do. Like, how would I do you know the originator of family is God? Maybe if I was the originator, I won't have this brilliant idea. I would feel like it would never work. I will give you one scripture that comforts me when I see things go in disarray and it looks like it's not going to work. Because every member of the team is important. You know what the Bible says? If the foot says, I am not part of the body, is he not part of the body? There's nothing you can do about the team. You can't walk away from your team. You can't. It's God that gave you that team. The wisdom is to keep asking God, so what can I do? What can I do? Not as a female. I'm not even looking at it that way. I'm looking at it in a way where I'm an individual before God, whether I'm male or female. I'm a child of God. My spirit is not male or female. God can communicate certain truths to me to fix stuff that is beyond the gender thing. You understand what I mean? So I had to come to that because there are things I'll be like, it's my husband that should do this. I know many of my friends who will be like, these fathers, they don't talk to their sons, oh. They don't talk to their sons. I'll be like, yeah, But to get that to happen, it takes God in a way where He can help me to be wise in that. Because otherwise we can all yell at each other and we still won't get things done. So that's my attitude. And the scripture that, like that I said I was going to share with you is Ezekiel. Is the Ezekiel that the valley of dry bones. Believe me, there's no surgeon general on earth that could have fixed that valley into what God did. There is none. All Ezekiel needed to do was prophesy. It was God that brought the bones back to bone because they were all scattered. It was very dry. There's nothing you can do. There are situations you look at. I wish I could help every family. I don't even know what restoration means for your family because it's God that had the original idea. Unless He reveals it to me, and how many families will He do that for me? There's so much going on. So in my own family, I've learned to say, this is my team. If anyone walks away, God will give me the wisdom to bring that person back. That doesn't stop that person from being part of my team. It just means I couldn't bring my team together. Am I the man? No. Am I the head of the family? No. Do I have strengths that God can relate with directly? Yes. Can I help my husband? Yes. Can I help every other gender? Yes. That's the way I started looking at it. And then life became a bit easier for me. Because I know one of my biggest issues was, back in the school, sisters meeting, they taught us how to care for our husband, how to kneel down, how to submit. In fact, they taught us until our heads were ringing. But there was never a brother meeting those days. And so it became a problem because then you go with the hope that everything will be fine. And then this man doesn't even understand what you're talking about. And that's not their fault either. So how do we make it work? Do we start pointing fingers? It doesn't work. So we go back to God and say, okay, this is where we found ourselves. There's grace, there's mercy. Whichever one you need, at any point in time, apply it. Our situations are unique. Very, very unique. So that's one of the problems of family restoration. I cannot go and tell you, this is what I did in my family, so do it, it will work for you. We have different personalities. We have different backgrounds. We have different dynamics going on. So it means everybody has to be interested in their own team. And if it's you that God has, that God caught your attention, then you are the person. Whether you are male or female, whether your role is CEO or leadership or anything, it's to bring things together. Can we make things work? That's the work. Can we begin to see ourselves as team members helping one another? I want to help my husband to be a better husband. I want to help him be a better father. I want to help him be a better grandfather. Whatever I can do. That's what team does. You go to Tim Hortons and there's a long queue. The manager steps down from wherever and comes to help serve. Why? The team have a goal and they all mesh, help one another to achieve the goal. Are we making sense? Amen.